And he repeatedly said that I threatened to kill his children. You know what? Because I've seen no consequences at all, and no consequences just for being an overall crappy teacher, I'm gonna just say the guy threatened to kill my kids. It gets to be that extreme because there are no consequences. And as a matter of fact, it's encouraged. We come to you with an update today on none other than Charles Hermes, professor at UTA. We have some documents here, and I do want to hear from you. I guess the question of the day is, I know everyone was saying, sue him, sue the school, and I said, hold on a second, let's let cooler heads prevail. Let it sit a little bit, and of course, we haven't sued anybody. What we have done is, what's the exact, the legal term here? My half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond, everybody. We filed
an open records request.
An open records request. So for people who don't know, explain what that is before we get to these hilarious documents.
At the federal level, at the state level, most states have some kind of request that you can go to a state body, an organization, university, an agency, and say, hey, I want to see what your records are. There's some exceptions there, but you generally can get what you're asking for.
For those who don't remember, this is, of course, the Crowder Confronts professor who accused me of being a neo-Nazi and posted false memes of me saying gas the Jews and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Very mean-spirited.
Really, mean-spirited stuff. Well, mean-spirited things.
Not cool.
And also mean-spirited to falsely attribute those quotes to myself.
They tried to say that they were just going to wait till everything got decided, but I pushed them and they produced a first set of documents that are not being scrutinized by the Texas Attorney General, and that's what we have today.
So, in other words, it would be reasonable to infer that these are the least damning of the documents. So whatever's coming down the pike is probably substantially worse if they didn't want us to see it.
Yeah, you would think the one that they're still trying to keep from us are going to be worse.
Mm-hmm. And there are quite a few things here. So if we take you to the first document, there's a long history of emotional instability. So before we get to the bias, before we get to the mistreatment, what I would see as mistreatment of students for having different political worldviews, there's just a general consistency. There's a consistent thread of him being emotionally unstable. This comes from summer 2017. I'm just going to read the highlights here. You guys can all read along. Talking about Professor Hermes, he got emotional and almost started crying. We expect the instructors to be professional and act in a certain way. I would say almost 80% of the course time he was emotional, felt like he would cry. And then everyone around him starts feeling bad and gets depressed. I think that it's very much important for him to get some kind of counseling and therapy.
Well,
this is a concern. This would be the most supportive. Another one, too, I'm kind of jumping around chronologically. This was from May 1st, where Charles Hermes again was saying, last year I started my first class knowing something was seriously wrong. Then he goes on to say, something was seriously wrong. I could not focus to complete even the simplest of tasks. I started talking about how labor in America is treated, how racial issues are treated, how I could not sit by anymore and pretend it wasn't happening. At the end of the talk, I raised my fist, this is Charles Hermes talking, raised my fist to the air and gave the loudest scream I ever gave in my life. ... Strike! He said. I said strike to my students. Then I left campus for the day. Way to put in your hours there, Mr. A few hours later, my boss called asking where I was. I told him it was International Labor Day and I was on strike. For a moment, I thought I might have lost my job. I'll admit the day was a moment of insanity. It's where I snapped. Throughout the last year, I've clung to that moment of insanity. You don't cling to a moment of insanity.
No, you tend to run towards sanity.
You tend to cling to your one moment of sanity if you're an insane person. And this would seem like the limitations of an insane person. And he says, I can think of no more fitting description for May 1st, 2017 than to say that was the day I was reborn into a crazy person. So he says, I was reborn, I'm crazy. And then you go back in time, and there were students saying, hey, this guy seems unstable, he seems crazy.
These are his public statements. I mean, these aren't.
Yes.
Yeah, some of this is public statement.
This is not public. I think this one is from a student. Yeah. Right.
The first one was from a student.
Right, and then he publicly confirmed it by saying, it was my moment of insanity, and it's what kept me from becoming sane. Here we have a complaint. This is a constant thread, too. This is a direct violation of the university's mission to promote free expression in an atmosphere of tolerance, responsibility, and trust. He often uses the word fascism, but his actions are textbook definition of fascism. Again, this is before the Crowder Confronts.
Absolutely.
So these are, and by the way, we've had a lot of emails from people. I think we have an email up at, do we have an email at louderwithcrowder.com?
Yes.
Right now you can just send it to tips@louderwithcrowder.com, but we will have emails specifically for professors. We want your footage. We want your feedback. We want your professor reviews so that we can help kids out there, because there have been a lot of students apparently suffering in silence. And that's what's important to note. Like, he didn't get our show banned, but not everyone has this platform. And my heart really breaks for kids going, hey, I think this professor's a little unstable. You know what this might be? This could be a kid saying, hey, this professor is failing me because I disagree with him.
Exactly.
And he definitely seems like he's unstable. Can you guys look into it? Something else you were mentioning too, it doesn't seem from all of these, and we'll get through a few more, there have been no reprimands.
From what we've seen in the records they produced so far, nothing corroborates that they did anything to address his public testament that he's going to remain willfully insane, in addition to all of the complaints from the students. And that's separate and apart from when he started accusing you of false statements.
Right. As a matter of fact, one could almost say that at the end of this show, they rewarded him. Not only was he not reprimanded, you'll get to see as we go along down the illogical trail how bad it is. Read this. Can you read this one for me here?
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
you have documents there.
I do. I'd sometimes get emails from him prior to class while advising other
By the way,
students.
hold on a second. Don't correct the errors.
And had not. I'd sometimes get emails from him prior to class while advising other students and had not yet seen it until we talked about the content in class. While I was in a meeting with a student, and after that meeting, I had my exam, and after the exam, I meet the teacher's night at school. Wednesday early day, I had doctor's appointments followed by finishing back to school work for blank, and then was working on email late afternoon.
What the hell does that mean? First off, more importantly, who wrote it?
You would think my full Asian mom wrote it, but Hermes wrote that.
Hermes wrote this. So we have more, by the way, after the Crowder Confronts video. And this is something else that I wanted to talk about. The reason that we don't typically go the legal route is because, you and I both know there are bigger legal battles to fight. As it relates to big tech, we know you've heard a lot of other people complain and kind of leave Patreon. We've created Mug Club specifically to avoid that battle, right? So we don't have a fight with Patreon. We don't want to get into legal battles. We want to create content. Bill knows that. Bill has probably done more work in creating content for the show and educating you on legal issues than actually fighting legal battles for us. That being said, we try to keep our powder dry, so we don't sue every Tom, Dick, and Harry. But a lot of people have been calling for some kind of action to be taken here because there are a lot of students out there who feel really helpless. Here's one after the video. This person said, after seeing the way a member of your hired faculty, Charles Hermes, has behaved in participating in a libel against someone, I rescind my interest in your university. This person, by the way, has a master's and was looking at getting another postgraduate degree.
Yeah.
And said, I'm not going to do it at UT Arlington.
Yeah.
This person, again, in relation to Charles Hermes, when I read there's also a component of intimidation and mislabeling of some students he disagrees with to be abhorrent and unacceptable. Oh, sorry, I read the second half of the phrase. This phrase actually is not a run-on sentence. I read half of it. My apologies. This person wrote it very well. If this is true, I hope these students will capture this bias on video recording and post it to social media. So here's something, too. When they say, we don't want to record this because it's for the safety of our students. Remember we went in?
No.
It's for the safety of our students. No, hold on a second. We've received messages from some students, right, who would go to that school, and they said, please, we want more recording. No, it's only to protect the people who want to operate in the dark. There are a lot of students who want transparency, namely the students who are being failed, the students who are being discriminated against because of their views by a professor. This idea that all students feel unsafe if somehow this conversation is being recorded, it's not true. Some of these, and then this is someone, the same person wrote, this seems to be, there seem to be more students and professors that are on our campuses for the wrong reasons. Some of these institutions are seeing lower enrollment rates due to concerns of parents. This person is not, I don't believe this person is a student. We have had to redact the information there. I think this is actually someone who works, if I'm not mistaken, we don't have all of it, so I'm not lying if I misspeak here. I believe this is someone who might work in some sector of education here, saying we're noticeably seeing a decrease in enrollment because of this.
There's no evidence here that anything has been done to re-guide
but
this
there is
professor.
ample evidence that he lied. And that's the Crowder Confronts with me and our friend Owen Benjamin is going to be on the show on Thursday, by the way.
Nice.
And the big people go, why do you dress up in the silly outfits? It's to draw attention to this. And if you remember, it was a big arrow that said not a Nazi because this guy lied and said that I was a Nazi. And when we went and confronted him in front of the class and said, but those, you know that these memes, that these pictures, that these statements are a lie, he said no. And he repeatedly said that I threatened to kill his children. By the way, if I ever threatened the lives of his children, Seems like that would be in these documents, right?
One would think.
Yeah, you'd think so.
If it's something where you're not going, hey, can we seal these? If you're going, here, manja, take this stuff.
Yeah.
Seems like anything that I had sent that would be a threat would be here.
Yeah.
When they're making the specific claim, he threatened the lives of my children.
Right.
He threatened to gas the Jews. That's where my antenna go up, and I go, hold on a second.
Yeah.
This is getting pretty specific. And the reason someone feels confident doing that is because they've gone unchecked with the transphobia
Right.
Yeah.
comments, with the racism comments, with the bigotry comments, with the prejudice comments, with the sexism comments, the racism comments. So that goes unchecked because you can't really check it, right?
Yeah.
It's like a hypothesis you can
Yeah.
never really test.
Yeah, and they've got the backing of the union.
But then that person says, "Oh, you know what? Because I've seen no consequences at all, and no consequences just for being an overall crappy teacher, I'm gonna just say the guy threatened to kill my kids." You go,
Yeah.
how does it get to be that extreme? It gets to be that extreme because there are no consequences. And as a matter of fact, it's encouraged. How do I know it's encouraged? Let me bring you to this final
Let
legal
me count
document
the
that we have.
ways.
That we have right now, by the way. We're going to keep you posted. And again, let me know if you think there should be some kind of legal action here. What you think the next step should be. Do you think that this information is enough, that this has been helpful enough? And by the way, if you're a student, we want to hear from you. We want to see you rating your professors.
Yeah.
Transparency is the name of the game. This was September 20th, 2 days after the Crowder Confronts video.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Guess who won runner-up for UTA Faculty Advisor of the Year? Charles Hermes.
Bravo. Bravo.
2 days
Good
later.
job.
Bravo.
Good job, Charlie.
Bravo.
So why does someone like this feel emboldened? Not only because you don't punish him, not only
Yeah.
because you don't correct even inaccuracies, but when he blatantly lies and abuses students, non-students, through his words, through intimidation, you give him, not the award, runner-up.
better.
This man is a lecturer of logic, in case you forgot.
Logic.
I think, is it logic and debate?
It's logic. Gosh.
Logic and something
Logic.
else that was equally
Straight up
absurd.
logic.
So, what do we expect next?
We're looking to get another set of documents once the Texas Attorney General is done doing its reviews. How many documents that is, what will be in there, we don't know. Again, our best guess would be that if there's a set of documents that they are actively trying to keep withheld, those probably have worse information than we already have, but we'll have to wait to see that. The Texas Attorney General's office, this division, gets inundated with these requests. They cover the entire state, so it is a process, but as soon as we get the rest of those, everyone will be the first to know.
For people out there who wonder, obviously, ladderwithcreditor.com/mug club, for people, a lot of you are watching on Mug Club. Some of you might be watching this on YouTube, or some of you might have illegally downloaded this. We just ask that you don't. We don't really do a whole lot with that. What's the one kids use now? Is it LimeWire?
The kids used to.
I don't know.
Navigator.
Are they
were
still
gonna say
using
Napster.
Napster? Is Justin
Napster.
Timberlake still running the file sharing program?
I think so.
But that's why we have Mug Club. That's why we're able to have Half Asian Lawyer, Bill Richmond, and Retainer. Our standard is we want to focus on content. A lot of people make their content nothing but legal battles. Like, I'm suing this person. Look, this is censorship. Join me and support me on Patreon. The truth is, the bulk of our content is simply content for entertainment. And our standard is, if there is something that will impede our ability to create content on a long-term basis, for example, we get copyright claims because we're doing a parody and we say, well, you know what, this video is demonetized, but it's not necessarily worth our fight. But if something is actually going to impede us from creating content, those are the battles that we pick. I don't know that Charles Hermes prevents us from creating content in the future. I know we've been banned from some schools in the past based on lies, but I do know that it harms a lot of viewers out there and a lot of students. And not even students, a lot of people, let's say, who are in business, who are being censored because you don't have this platform. And that's how we pick our battles. That's why it's so important to hear from you, because we want to know which battles you think are worth it, because we don't want to fight battles that take us away from content. Is there anything else here that I missed?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned as we get more of these documents, and we do want to hear from you what you think we should be doing here with Professor Charles Hermes. And of course, this year, I believe we're going to be doing one show at a school this semester. Our new rule going forward is we're going to do the Halloween Spooktacular as a live show, and possibly a St. Patrick's Day Mixtravaganza on campus. Because it's bringing our show out, you've come out with it's
Notre Dame,
so much work. I would love to do Notre Dame,
would be
but
awesome.
I don't know if they would let us do it there.
We can make that happen.
It's a lot of work. It requires bringing out not only our whole crew, but getting day raiders, getting the equipment in, getting set up several days before. But that is something that we're looking to do. So, of course, obviously the culture on college campus. is important to us. And it's not only important to us to do our shows, but it's really important to me to see that people who watch the show, a lot of you are college students, that you're able to speak freely, that you're able to not live in fear. No one should live in fear. Whether it's a trans person wanting to take a dump in the other bathroom, listen, doesn't mean that they have the right to drop a deuce anywhere they want, but that person shouldn't live in fear of being attacked. Just as if you're a conservative, you shouldn't live in fear of being failed or being kicked out of a campus simply for holding views that, by the way, half the country hold. Hey there, here I am drinking from my mug in a button down. How often do you see this? Never. So do me a favor and yourself, click one of these videos playing one of these boxes here, or subscribe, hit the notification bell also, because subscriptions don't really mean a whole lot. If you really want to support the show, join my club. If you don't, then there's no helping you.